Warning. The opinions, ideas, views, emotions, and temper tantrums expressed or otherwise conveyed on the Tony and Josh show may not and most likely is not suitable for all audiences and therefore should not be heard by anyone unless supervised by an appropriate nanny state. Enjoy!
Welcome to the Tony and Josh Show. Tony and Josh are the functionally illiterates of the podcasting world. Now here they are. Tony and Josh.
Hey, this is Tony, and you're listening to episode 21 of the Tony and Josh Show. You know, Josh, I completely had a brain fart because I was, I think I was creating show notes or something, and I went, 21? What happened to 20? I remember doing the show. I just didn't remember it being episode 20. We were supposed to have some sort of fanfare. We graduated from teens to our adulthood show count.
Yeah, we're definitely climbing the numbers, that's for sure. Hopefully we can start climbing some charts too. But 21 already. It seems like we're catching up almost to our other show.
That's like 21 weeks of shows. Actually, it's exactly like 21 weeks of shows.
Exactly like 21 weeks of shows. Funny how that works out, the whole math thing, yeah.
Well, if we were doing it every 2 weeks, it would be, well, that would still be 21 weeks of shows. It would just be every other week. I don't know.
I was told thered be no math.
Oh, gosh, I wish they told us that in math class.
Put me on the spot.
So, what's up, man?
Oh, man, it's been an interesting evening. Had a little interesting course of events happen here. We found an item on our property, and it looks like I'm going to end up having to get the local police involved. It's nothing too crazy, nothing wacky, just sort of something a little out of the ordinary. It looks like a would-be criminal or an alleged criminal, perhaps, dumped something in his police chase in our property. We got a bag that my stepson found out in the front yard, stashed deep underneath a bush, and with some careful investigation, I found a wallet inside of it, looked up the name online, and it appears as if the young man is currently in custody at my local county sheriff's department. So I'm going to have to call up the police and head down and drop off these belongings, as they may very well be part of an ongoing investigation.
Wow, I hope there's no drugs in that on any of that stuff, and you have the residue, and the police dog starts barking, you know?
Yeah, right.
Or I'd actually have them come pick it up.
It was it'd been out there for at least a couple weeks. We had a very heavy rain roll through, and that was a good couple weeks ago. And I could tell because everything was damp and mildewy and moldy and stuff like that. And we haven't gotten any good rain in a while. So in order for it to be like that, it would have to be stashed underneath this bush for at least a couple of weeks now. So I would say that this has been around for a little while, and I was wearing rubber gloves and everything. So if there was anything like that, I would say it's probably all washed off right now. It's funny you mentioned that, because I think one of his charges, if I remember correctly, posted up online was possession of heroin or something like that. So this kid is obviously mixed up in a bad crowd.
Well, these kids these days, there's got to be drugs involved. They're on the Twitter, they're on the Facebook. Well, actually, we are too. So maybe not that. Maybe that's not an indicator. But I bet you they watch the MTV.
Yeah, do they still play music on that?
I stopped watching it when they stopped playing music. I mean, when they were doing the music videos, it was fun to watch. It was kind of like having the internet, because you could just have the TV on with the music videos playing, do whatever it is you're doing. I guess I was doing radio stuff, CB, ham radio, electronics type things, and I'd have it had this little TV up on a shelf, and I'd be playing music, and I could glance up there if there was something worth looking at. Like Madonna or something.
I remember when I was a kid, and we'd stay up late to watch the Headbangers Ball. That was something else.
That was on the Playboys channel, wasn't it?
No, you're thinking of something else, buddy.
Okay, I'm way off then. I just we didn't get the Playboy channel, so I don't know the shows that they had. It just sounds like something would be on that the Playboy channel or Penthouse forums.
Hey, at least you guys had cable. I got some stories of the cheap that we'll get into one of these episodes, and we can compare stories of how we grew up and how cheap our parents were.
I'll give you a quick one that comes to mind as far as cheap goes. I had a radio and a lot of electronic stuff. I know it's hard to believe, in my my room at my parents' house, and I like to have. I think it was the CB, and it was a tube type CB. It was. I mean, tubes are old back whenever I got this thing, but
Sure.
it was used. I was like 14 years old. It was used, but it was all tubes. Turned out to be a really good CB radio. People were going, "Why do you sound so good?" Oh, hell, it's just genetics. Anyway, so anyway, my dad came in there because I'd leave the CB on and I would be listening to it. And I'm not sure if he was really concerned about the power usage or if he was just tired of hearing the shit in for there, good buddy, and all that kind of crap. So he comes in there, which he didn't normally come into my room anyway, but he comes in there complaining about the radio and all the stuff that I leave on while I'm sleeping. He didn't have a problem with me having it on while I was awake, but sleeping, he thought it was silly because I was using a lot of electricity. And I informed him that the 25-inch color TV that we had in the living room, it was a big ass TV. I don't know. Maybe it was bigger than that, but anyway, it wasn't that big by today's standards. And I informed him that instant on feature of that color TV meant that the tube was always energized and was always using electricity even when it was off.
Oh, and I'm sure he just thoroughly enjoyed the education coming from a young Tony.
Yes. And he grumbled and walked off.
Oh man, yeah. No, we had one of those big console TVs. It took a full moving crew and a forklift to change positions anytime you reorganize the living room. And that was probably around 25, 27 inches, with the two big dials on it and no clicker, no remote. This was before the days of remote control and stuff like that. But
well, there were remote controls, but those TVs were insanely expensive.
Oh yeah, I didn't even know about those. That's how sheltered I was.
Well, anyway, so now that I've gotten older, had a family, and have to pay the electric bill, I understand exactly where he's coming from. But at that time, the smart ass Tony ruled, and I guess that's still the case in a lot of situations. Speaking of the color TV, we didn't have a color TV at first. It was later. My dad was one of those that said, color TV it's going to break and it costs more. It's more complex, so it's going to break and it costs more to get it fixed. TVs there was an TV repair back then where you would take your TV and they would fix it for you.
Yeah, this is before the days of just we'll just drop it off at Goodwill or something like that and go get a new one.
Yeah,
no, you got the thing fixed.
Yep. But I remember watching Batman, and it was around 65. That's about the time that I can start remembering things.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to watch Batman, and I remember how it said, now in color, or in color at the bottom. And we had a color TV, and I could actually see it in color.
Yeah, I remember when everything was in color vision or in Technicolor. It was big advertisement. Now in Technicolor and stuff like that. I don't think we even had a color TV until I was about 11 or 12 years old.
Oh, my wife calls me spoiled because I had a 9-inch black and white TV. I think when I was about 9, I got it for my birthday or Christmas. I can't remember.
Oh wow, yeah, you were spoiled. Had your own TV at 9.
Only child. So, looking at the show notes, I think you had something there about Batman.
Well, in fact, I do. We actually got a couple things today. In fact, Adam West, the original Batman, is turning 85 years old. Of course, we just a few episodes back had a almost entirely Batman episode where we talked a lot about Batman and other movies and stuff like that. And of course, the original Batman came up, and we got to give Adam West a little bit of a shout out. And tell him happy birthday. And oddly enough, another semi-celebrity who's turning 85 today. You might know him as Mickey Mouse, but Steamboat Willie, the very first first showing of what would be later become Mickey Mouse, happened 85 years ago. Pretty
cool. That's a long time. Speaking of Steamboat Willie, we have a few, and this is not a segue. It's not a good segue at all because this has nothing to do with Steamboat Willie. But we do have a few voicemails, and you guys love him from Nikki G. Let's get the first one. We do have a series of them, and we're going to spread those out through the show.
Hey, this is Nikki G, and I just got this thing in my head about we've all seen the cliche of kids throwing a ball or a frisbee or something back and forth, and it goes over the fence and lands in the haunted house of the neighborhood where the scary old lady lives. And everybody's afraid to get the ball, so they send in the one kid nobody likes. That reminds me so much of John Kerry going to Syria, or handling the Syria incident. Is he the most qualified American for the job, or is he just the most expendable American we have right now? I'll let you guys decide. I'll chat with you later. Goodbye.
Well, I'd say it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, no, that's an easy choice in my book.
I may have mentioned this on the show before, but I don't know if everybody's aware of it or not, but John Kerry, before he agreed to be Secretary of State, he said that he must be 5 minutes away from a coastline no matter where he goes, and there must be a very fast boat there that he can jump on if he needs to.
It sounds like a quick getaway. I don't know. It sounds like something out of a Godfather movie or some sort of gangster movie. It's or maybe even a James Bond movie or something. Trying to have the escape pod, so to speak.
Well, yeah, you probably weren't paying attention whenever the George Bush John Kerry election, because they brought out John Kerry's Vietnam service, where he allegedly drove off in the Swift boat and left soldiers behind, and that's why they were calling him John Swiftboat Kerry.
Okay, yeah, no, I missed that.
And that's my joke about he can only be 5 minutes away from the water, and there has to be a fast boat waiting for him.
That's a pretty good dig. Pretty good dig, nonetheless. Yeah.
Like I tell my wife, they're not as funny when you have to explain them.
Yeah. Nonetheless, that was a pretty good dig. Now that I've got the backstory behind it, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's what happens when you miss the morning meetings. Anyway, so we, more of a somber moment, somber story, but we got to talk about it. The shooting at the Naval Yards here this past Monday, which is about 4 days ago. And of course, there's a lot more information out now than what there was Monday. So I guess we're lucky in that regard that we have a little bit more knowledgeable stuff to talk about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In fact, there's a couple things that popped up that it seems like. Okay, look, the last few years, there's been several shooting instances. These tragic shootings, whether it was in a movie theater, Fort Hood, a school shooting, whatever. Nonetheless, it seems like the media, of course, jumps all over it like a school of piranhas in a steak. And it seems like it's all about who can get as much information out to the on the airwaves as soon as possible, regardless of its integrity.
Yep.
And there was so much misinformation spewed forth by the beloved media, and this one, no exception on this one as well. And I mean, reports of, he's got an assault rifle. Of course, they're going to go after the assault rifle crowd because, it's that's a hot topic. Let's go ahead and hop right on that assault rifle bandwagon. So let's see if we can use this as a another arrow in the quiver of getting anything like this. Any type of assault rifle banned. And it's there's obviously ulterior motives behind it. I don't think it's just about ratings. There's obviously political motives behind it, and there's other misinformation that just kept coming out. And of course, it seemed like every other day there was a retraction, there was a correction, there was something else. We found out that it wasn't this, it was this. There wasn't 3 guys, it was just 1. It wasn't an assault rifle, it was a shotgun. It wasn't this, it was that. It was just like, how about you just take a beat, figure out the correct information and then report. You're not going to be held any, less regard, or, your ratings aren't going to suffer that much by not reporting on something, that very minute, regardless of how correct it is.
Well, I think that is indicative of the 24-hour news cycles, the competition between Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. I mean, there's 3 major cable style networks that are competing in a 24-hour news cycle. So, used to see it in movies and stuff about newspapers trying to get the scoop and trying to get the story out first. And they also press the integrity of the story, the verification of sources, multiple verification of the story that they were going to print, and people getting in serious trouble whenever that didn't happen. Now we see things like, back when Zimmerman was right after the Zimmerman Trayvon Martin shooting had happened, MSNBC actually manipulated the 911 call, manufacturing the news.
Yeah, that was a gross misjustice and obviously a mishandling of I'm not going to call it evidence, but of news information. And there's no possible excuse or justification for it. I mean, obviously they're going to, there were motives behind it. I guess you could call those justifications, if you will. It's certainly not right.
No, and it's mind-boggling to me because I think I've never been to journalism school, which, if you listen to this show very much, it's obvious. But okay. I think one of the cornerstones to journalism is integrity and making sure that you report the news. Now, I know that you can do an opinion type piece, or you can, if you're a cut and dry news person, you don't sway the news one way or another. You don't pick the stories one way or another to try to fit the narrative that you want to press. And unfortunately, just like with the George Zimmerman thing, the media was trying to sway the public in a certain direction that he was bad, he was evil, and to a large degree, they've managed that. I personally think that the news organizations ought to be held criminally liable for the deaths that have occurred from black on white crime that were definitely tied back to the George Zimmerman thing. This has been whipped up by the news media, and there have been murders committed because of it.
I just very quickly looked up whether or not there was a journalist's creed, and there actually is, and it was written around 1906. And one of the lines in the journalist's creed, I'm not going to read the whole thing for sake of time, but it says, "I believe that clear thinking, clear statement, accuracy, and fairness are fundamental to good journalism." And accuracy and fairness are in there, and I think that there certainly is a lack of that more and more as we go down our timeline here.
I think the way that they are seeing it is, and this seems to be the liberal way, I think the way they're seeing this is that we're smarter than you. Things aren't going the way we want them to go, so it's important for us to create an environment where you can come along, because obviously you're not smart enough to figure this out on your own like we did. So we don't want to harm you. We want to help you. So we only need to feed you the information that you need. For example, getting back to the AR-15 thing, the narrative is, and this is, I don't think that these people, I don't think liberals are well, I think they are lying on purpose, but I think that their hearts are in the right place. They believe strongly that guns are a bad thing for us to have, that ought to be left up to somebody else, somebody that's more capable than the everyday person. And certainly I run across stupid people every day driving back and forth to work an hour each way. But I don't think they're so stupid that they should not be able to have a weapon to defend themselves just because they drive the speed limit or less in the fast lane while talking or texting on a cell phone, which is obvious because they got it up in front of them. I can see it through their back glass. That's an idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to do it in the slow lane, you're still an idiot, but at least you're less of one. So I do not begrudge them for doing what they feel they can. I begrudge them for being in front of me and slowing me down and not being thoughtful enough to move because, I'm playing while I'm driving. So
yeah, I mean, for instance, I have a common courtesy that I do mine either on the shoulder or on the sidewalk.
So, well, you didn't mention you were driving, so I had to put that one together. So that makes sense now. Anyway, so I think that they got it in their head, especially Piers Morgan. I think he's got it in his head that we need to press home that the AR-15, nobody needs an AR-15. You don't need an AR-15. It's not a hunting weapon, not an animal hunting weapon. Well, I'm sorry, not a non-human animal hunting weapon. It's meant to kill people. Yes, sir, that is true. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that because it is legal to kill people if they're trying to kill you. In fact, in Texas, and don't commit a killing because I'm telling you this. Check out the laws yourself. But in Texas, you can use deadly force if somebody is committing a felony. So if somebody goes out to steal my vehicle and I catch them doing it, I can shoot them and kill them because that is a felony. They're trying to steal my vehicle. Now, I don't know if I would kill somebody for a theft of something like that. I think I'd probably try to stop them.
Sure, I'd at least wing them.
but I'm just saying, you can even kill somebody. You can use deadly force to protect your property, certainly to protect your family. So,
well, I believe, I'm with you there 100%, especially on this Piers Morgan thing. But I mean, remember back in like February, was it? He went out of his way to go to a gun range and shoot several guns. I think one of them was an assault rifle or something like that. It was all over the news. It was a big deal. I mean, obviously it was a huge PR stunt because of his stance on gun control and specifically the AR-15s or any pick your assault rifle du jour. That he had to sort of save face a little bit, and for everybody else out there who couldn't read between the lines, seeing him at a gun range and sending a few rounds downrange a little bit with an assault rifle. Oh, that makes it all better now. Not quite, not in my book, at least.
Well, at least he's not, I'll give him kudos for actually getting out there and doing it. I mean, he could have,
his handlers. I think his handlers forced him to do it. I think if it was left up to his own accord,
it doesn't matter. He could still say no. I mean, I think his show is big enough, at least on CNN, because they don't have 3 viewers, and they share 2 of them with MSNBC. So, you don't have to have a lot of white people watching you to be one of the big CNN people. So, I'm sure he could have said no, but I think anybody, and this is one of the things I got into it with Kristen Johnston of Third Rock and of the X's. I got into it with her on Facebook about guns and how this was after the Sandy Hook thing. So it was very emotional. Those little kids that were killed. That's just horrible. It's senseless. I can't imagine anybody lower killing children, kindergartners. But anyway, I got into it with her and she says, we don't want to take your guns. Nobody needs an assault weapon, blah, 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 blah. And I told her, look, if you ever come to Houston, I'll take you out to the range and let you shoot my Remington 700 308. It's a lot of fun. And I think that a lot of people are anti-guns simply because they don't know guns. They're scared of guns. It's fun to shoot guns. It is very freeing to know that you have the ability to use a tool that you could use to feed yourself, protect yourself. It has multiple uses. So, of course, the person that she is, she's very funny, but she's also very aggressive, caustic. How can you say? And she said, thank you very much, but I know a lot about guns because I had to learn it during Third Rock. Apparently there was a scene in there where she had to be able to take a gun apart and put it back together on there. And so she knows a lot about it. So she says. So that apparently wasn't the issue with her.
Well, I mean, it sort of stems from, this primal, there's something primal in us that we all have these sort of xenophobic tendencies to where we have this natural born fear of the unknown.
Sure.
Call it the basis for the flight or fight response or something like that. And it's those people who have never been exposed to it, never been educated about or personally involved with anything relating around guns, whether it be, a gun enthusiast in their circle of friends or family, whether themselves spending any time at all on a gun range ever in their life, ever shooting a gun at all, ever being around a gun that's been discharged, for either fun, sport, or otherwise, and so it is just down to their core, just in their pure sense of being, that they fear this unknown, and if if they fear it, then it must be bad. The thing that you fear the most is the worst thing in the world. And so then you've got, political pundits start spouting off this, that, and the other thing. And probably half of them spouting off a bunch of, bad statistics and stuff. And sure, it's just going to feed into that fear. Now you've got a whole culture based upon the fear of guns or anything related to that, for that matter. And now you throw something in there like an assault rifle, and, that's a far cry from, playing cops and robbers or, cowboys and Indians when you were a kid, just shooting a little make-believe 6-shooter, and now you've got this big scary assault rifle. Ooh, and so now it's turned a fear into a nightmare. And then add to that these guys out there, doing the mass shootings and stuff like that, and purporting of potential use of these assault rifles. It compounds all this fear, and it just adds and adds and adds to now that we've got too much gun control. We've got bans on assault rifles trying to get put into effect, and it's one thing after another. And to me, it all stems from a lack of education, a lack of experience.
Well, I think that there is. I think a lot of it could be your peers, the people that these people are around, not Piers Morgan, but I think that the people that talk to each other and the people that they've surrounded themselves with. So that there's this mental picture of there should be no guns, and it's just that way. I don't think it's thought of logically, other than coming up with logical arguments why people shouldn't have guns. In other words, I don't think that it's looked at fairly by these people. I think liberals, and not all liberals are anti-gun, and certainly not all conservatives are pro-gun. It's just generally that way, depending on those whichever side you're on. So anyway, I think that the case here is that they when they see an opportunity to press the narrative of anti-gun to help us dumb hicks that want to have guns, they need to help us, because obviously we're not smart enough to make the decision for ourselves, so that they have to press the narrative to try to convince us to get rid of our guns, to allow those laws to be passed. And I guarantee you, the assault weapon ban is only the first step. We've seen what has happened in Australia, and I believe in New Zealand. I know in Australia, they actually collected all the guns and destroyed them. And I don't have the statistics in front of me, but armed robbery up, home invasions up. I mean, big numbers, big percentages in Australia. And I just don't understand it. It's illogical. There's no guns. So why would people, break into a house with a gun? I mean, why would a criminal have a gun? The guns are illegal. Well, I haven't read it yet, but I'm sure it's all going to come back to the United States.
Oh, sure.
because
blame the Yanks. Why not?
The U.S. still has all these millions of guns, so they're finding their way to Australia. So that just means we need to get the United States playing properly with the rest of the world, so we can, get rid of these guns once and for all. And I'll go back to it. Darfur. What was it? 7,700,000 people killed. Genocide. With what? Guns? No. I mean, I think it's bad enough getting shot with a gun. Can you imagine getting hacked to death with a machete?
No. That's, I mean, we've gone over it time and time again about, you can use just about anything as a weapon, and probably the most dangerous weapon is knowledge or
absolutely. Yeah. Full frontal lobotomies for everybody.
Yeah, here we go. Well, Tony, you mentioned something about CNN and MSNBC, and you've got a mention of both of these news avenues here in the show notes.
Yep.
What do you got here? Let's hit down.
Well, obviously, we were talking about Piers Morgan. I did want to mention that they had I saw a little picture of Piers Morgan and on CNN, and just below in the ticker or whatever, above the ticker, but right there. To kind of preface what he was talking about, they were talking about an AR-15 shotgun. So they were just hanging on to it for dear hope. It's an AR-15 shotgun, No, you idiot. No, you don't understand. You think you're smart, but you're not. I'm serious. It said a AR-15 shotgun. So, and another gaffe. CNN anchor Carol Castillo stuck her foot in her mouth. I think this was on Monday, and she says, I can't remember the last military base that was attacked by somebody. It was just a big trial for the guy that killed 13 people or 30 people. I don't have it in front of me.
It was probably about the only thing that was in the news for a solid week. I mean, really, it was in the news, and this isn't a CNN anchor person. Come on.
I mean, they just came down with the sentence. What, a week ago, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, no,
and he got death.
Recent news. No,
yeah.
this
he got the death penalty for and I'll remind everybody. I did not know this during the Fort Hood shooting, is what we're speaking of. I did not know this, but I believe it was 93, then President Bill Clinton signed an executive order stating that military personnel could not carry weapons on base. And
I actually reported that when we were, I think one of the episodes, we had spent either a full episode or a good portion of one talking about that whole ordeal, and I had mentioned that, and we sort of went down the Bill Clinton road and sort of what we both thought of him. But yeah, in fact, we could probably blame that whole thing on Clinton, because it was a bill that he had signed that pretty much disarmed military bases and made it so that military personnel could not carry their issued or personal firearms on base.
It's insane. I just can't imagine having military people without weapons. I mean,
if there's any place on the planet that a military personnel should be able to carry just about any and every weapon that they possibly could or want to, it would be on base. But apparently Clinton decided that was not a good idea.
I mean, they're trained to use those weapons. Now, I know there are people just like everybody else. I've made this comment before, and everybody can make a mistake. Anybody can do something stupid. Military, they're people, but supposedly they've been trained, and it's their job to protect us. And, I really think they ought to be armed. If they want to carry a weapon on base, they damn well should be able to. And in fact, if I was one of the commanders or leaders on the base, I would make sure that a certain number of individuals always did carry a weapon, because somebody might want to shoot me.
I think the MPs are about the only ones that are allowed to, or people who are actively at or using a firing range, or perhaps the actual weapons depot. And so I mean, there's still armed personnel on base.
Yeah,
there's still
but I mean that's the civilian model, isn't it? Because the police have the weapons, and the residents or the civilians don't.
Exactly.
And they're trying to do the same model on the military base. It's not the same thing.
No. There should be an exception to the rule, and that should certainly be it.
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, this guy that did the attack at the Naval Yard this past Monday, he was actually an employee there. He had been terminated last Friday, so the Friday before the Monday of the shooting. And his security badge was his because there was some talk about how did he get a badge to gain entry and so on and so forth. Well, it was his badge. And also too, I heard today that he had actually been looking to the VA for help because he had been hearing voices. He couldn't sleep. He thought that he had PTSD, and he was having issues.
I thought I heard something just real briefly, without going too deep into this, that he hadn't actually looked for mental help.
Yes.
He had gone to the doctors twice in the last couple months or whatever, couple weeks, about some not being able to sleep and having some stress and stuff like that. But there was no mention as to voices in his head or things like that. Suicidal thoughts, violent tendencies, yada yada yada. So he, for all intents and purposes, he was not on the radar. If you would have ran this guy's profile straight through an FBI profiler machine, he would not have been popped up as a red flag. Had that whole mental state of mind thing popped up, if there was some discussion developed about that, well, yes, then maybe so. There probably would have been some red flags.
Well, from what I heard today, he had told the VA doctor that he was hearing voices. He was having trouble sleeping. He thought he had PTSD. And there's a little thing, I think it's the Fourth Amendment that keeps them from collecting information on us. That includes mental health information. Now, if he had been put in a mental health facility, I believe it would be different. But I don't think that the FBI or anything else would come up based on him talking to the doctor about it because of the patient-doctor confidentiality. So
right.
There's kind of a problem, maybe not really a loophole, but for lack of a better term, there's a bit of a loophole going on right now that allows people with mental health issues still have access to guns. And buy them legally or whatever, simply because their information can't be given out. Now, I did hear something about it being local to the state, but it may not be shared between states because of this confidentiality thing.
Well, one of the weapons that was used, or that he at least had on him, was very recently purchased, from what I understand, and he went through the whole background check and passed.
Yeah.
This might be the new generation of background checks. I don't know. In any case, he was able to purchase a gun through whatever means of background checks. And from what I understand, he also had a secret class government clearance.
Yeah.
He had information.
He had the clearance until Friday when he was fired.
Right.
So you gotta ask, what's the security procedure at the naval yard to have a badge to still have the badge on Monday and it still be active to allow you in? The badge should have been taken on Friday, and it should have been, and if he or the badge was not available, or it was just too much of a risk because he was acting nutso, I don't know, then the badge should have been disabled in security. I mean, that's a no-brainer. I mean, you go to any financial institution, just about any place where you have a little lanyard and a security badge or something like that you use to clock in, or that you use to get into a building or into a part of a building. If you're terminated, that's going to be one of the very first things. They're going to hand you your check. Here's a box to clean out your desk, and we'll be taking that security badge from you right now. Thank you very much. Yeah, and if you don't want to give it up, they're not going to fight with you about it.
No. They'll just take it out of the system.
They should do that anyway. I mean, as soon as before they go over there to talk to you, they should disable the badge.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you find out what's going on, hey, you may run into the data center or wherever you have access to and take out a few $1 million worth of stuff. It's just basic security.
Apparently naval yards don't have a human resources department. I don't know.
Well, no, I think it's just, it goes right back to the way the federal government takes care of things. I mean, we've all been to the DMV. That's not federal, but we've all been to the DMV. We know how things work in the government. It's slow, arduous, and apathetic. And I think we're seeing the same thing here, and it got people killed. Now, certainly this guy with mental health issues is the one that did the killing, but there's things that could have been done to hopefully keep that from happening. Now, one thing I did want to say is that this guy was trying to find help. He knew that he had some problems. He was trying to seek help, and for whatever reason, I'm not saying I forgive him for what he did, but he had mental health issues, and it would have been good if our federal government, our VA services, could have done something more than give him some medication and tell him to come back in 2 weeks. Now, getting back to the mental health thing, I love the idea of, instead of going after the guns, let's go after the mental health issue. Let's go after the mental health loophole. And I'm hoping that whenever they see that they're not going to get any traction on gun control, and I can't believe with Obama and the Dems holding the Senate that they're having such a hard time pushing this agenda. It doesn't jive with the handout help me people wanting to have their guns so they can help themselves. Perhaps this is a tsunami that's building. I'm hoping, but anyway, we're going to have to be really careful about how they handle the mental health issues, because keep in mind what they did with the IRS. Even if it was just the IRS themselves coming up with it on their own, they were going after conservative groups, Tea Party members. So if there's a loophole where they can close up this mental health thing where people can't get guns, we need to be really careful about who decides who has mental health issues, and therefore who can't buy guns or ammunition or live in a certain neighborhood or drink from the right water fountain or where they ride on the bus.
That's gonna potentially get onto a very slippery slope with matters. I mean, I see where you're going with that, and I can agree to a certain extent where that could potentially end up or certainly go.
Yeah. So I'm just saying we got to be really careful. Now, one more thing about this. I know we've been talking about it a long time, but this makes me happy, so I got to talk about it. Now, I'm sure you guys, I was going to say probably, but I'm sure you guys know that there was 2 Colorado senators recently recalled. They were recalled because they pushed anti-gun legislation in Colorado, and they were successfully recalled. One of the senators, or now former senators, Angela Gyron, I'm sorry?
I said, sure.
Okay. I was hoping you were going to help me out there, but no thanks. It's Giron. So I'm going to say Gyron. She made a statement on an MSNBC interview. Now she has lost. She is no longer a senator, but she maintains that she's going to continue the good fight. She's going to continue the fight against guns in Colorado. And she said, this is what she said in the interview, that it's obvious to her that that having guns doesn't help protect you, because that man went in and attacked the Navy Yard where everybody had guns, and he still killed a bunch of people. She literally thinks that the people that were at the Naval Yard were armed or had the ability to be armed. This is a senator in Colorado. And beyond that, she doesn't know. So why make that statement? A politician should never make a statement whenever they don't know. Check your facts.
She can't help it. Her job is to run her mouth, and it starts opening, air comes out, and words get said, and be damned of the accuracy or information behind them. And there's certainly not going to be any sort of investigation or research done beforehand to make sure that whatever is coming out of her mouth is going to be of an intelligent and accurate nature. No, that's not the way that politicians work, Tony.
Yeah, I guess. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about honesty and integrity. I forget this is politics, And we
Right.
see it from Obama every day, how he keeps saying things that are false. They are not true. They are out and out lies, and they repeat them. The whole administration repeats it. Hell, maybe she didn't know. Maybe she did know. Who knows? But she wanted to try to sell it to these people, and maybe some people in Colorado, people that will perhaps vote for her whenever it comes time to go through that process again. Maybe they'll believe that. Maybe they'll remember that because she said it, and they are pro Senator Angelina. So I don't know. Maybe it was. But anyway, we know it's not true because we know in '93 Clinton signed a bill, or actually signed an executive order saying they couldn't have guns. The only thing I can say, the only saving grace that I can say is she said it on MSNBC. So really only about 10 people saw it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was going to, just for a brief moment, maybe give her some degree of justification and say, oh, well, maybe she was just having a blonde moment. Oh, no, she's most definitely a brunette.
Yep.
So there's just no excuse.
Hey, this is Nikki G. I'm just calling in, giving my comments now. I don't think I'll be able to catch the live show Thursday, but
how dare you?
I want to talk about, there's been a lot of gun violence in the news this week, and I'm sure the gun nuts are going to push to take the guns away. And I'll say criminals know it's illegal to shoot people. I don't think they're going to give up their guns voluntarily. When you take my gun away, you're just taking away my right and ability to defend myself and my family. And I feel a lot of people feel that way, I'm sure. And I want to talk about the shooting that happened the other day right here in my backyard, literally just a few miles from my house. And they said it made national news, and I saw a blurb on it on the YouTube homepage, but it's a police officer shot a young man early in the morning the other day. Apparently the young man crashed his car at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and was knocking on
I read this.
at somebody's door. The person didn't recognize the man, called 911, which you should do. Never open your door to a stranger. 3 police arrived on the scene. We'll call them Police Officer A, B, and C. Police Officer A gave the suspect verbal instructions. He didn't respond. He then pulled out his taser gun and attempted to subdue the suspect, but his taser misfired, and the suspect then ran towards Police Officer B, who pulled his service revolver and shot the suspect, and unfortunately he killed him. Now, the city I live in, where they're very liable conscious, right away they arrested the officer and charged him with involuntary manslaughter, I believe, prematurely, just to subdue a mob before an investigation was complete. But I saw it on the 5 a.m. news, and this is what really, really angers me. I saw it on the 5 a.m. news. On the noon news, the NAACP was releasing a statement comparing this case to the Trayvon Martin case, claiming that people are being gunned down in America based on the color of their skin, which I don't think was what happened here. And by the 5 o'clock news, the parents were on there with their lawyer filing a lawsuit, which how many working class Americans have a lawyer on retainer? I believe that lawyer was provided by the NAACP. But my take on it is it's very tragic, very unfortunate. And I was taught, and I tell my kids, when a police officer gives you instructions, you follow it, no matter if he wants you to stand up. Oops, I got another call. I'll have to call you back.
And
the mothership is calling.
You'll find out why we're laughing, and when we get to the third Nikki G voicemail here in a little bit.
Well, on talk of all this guns, Tony. We've talked about guns as a tool, and there's plenty of tools for plenty of jobs, and There's a guy in the news here recently. Nikki was mentioning about a guy in the news here, and obviously a much more tragic story than what I'm about to share with you guys. But there's a man that was trying to use a different set of tools to, get rid of a wasp nest on his neighbor's house. There's plenty of ways to take care of a wasp problem. I mean, you've got bug spray, exterminators, even more bug spray, I guess. If you like pain and the threat of being swarmed, I guess you could even go after him with a shoe or hold up newspaper or something like that. Maybe even one of those big novelty fly swatters. This British man, I guess, used something different on his neighbor's home. None of the above, in fact. Instead, he used his weapon of choice against the stinging, buzzing pests was a flaming rag. Now, certainly not exactly the brightest choice. I mean, I know, you might come to think that, smoke and bees that subdues them, et cetera, and, smoke and fire kind of goes hand in hand. Sure, I can see some degree of logic behind that, but, so how this guy went about it, certainly not the brightest bulb in the batch. According to the police report, Lindsay Brealey, the victim, I guess the owner of the house that was burnt down after everything was all said and done, she returned home with her 2 daughters from a short vacation to find a fire had gutted the entire house. Evidently, her neighbor took it upon himself to declare war on this nest of wasps that had taken up residency in a cavity of this gal's home. As her neighbor learned the hard way, war can get pretty messy, apparently. The unidentified neighbor decided his best option was to smoke them out using a flaming rag tied to the end of a pole. Now, just a side note here, folks. When your solution to a problem is fire at the end of a stick, you're probably going to be in for some trouble. Now, according to the neighbor, a gust of wind came by and he quickly lost control of the fire. It then took 10 firefighters to eventually quell the fire, but by then, Brealey and her 2 daughters had lost everything, including their pet hamster. Now, once you get past the sheer stupidity of this guy's actions, it seems like a pretty neighborly thing to do. Take care of a wasp problem for your neighbor. Sure, why not? Wasps have a reputation for being the drunken hooligans of the insect kingdom. Most likely, the little guys were just minding their own business, kind of like what that neighbor should have been doing to begin with. At least this Brealey gal doesn't have to live next door to her dumb neighbor anymore.
Well, I'll chime in. That's the way my dad got rid of the wasps at our house.
Now, I've gone around and seen those little mud wasps trying to build some stuff around the house, and this is of course when I was a kid, and I'd grab the big tall bottle of my mom's hairspray or something like that, and a lighter, and make myself a little homemade flamethrower, and I'd take care of business as it were. But that was just 1 or 2. But I can't imagine, this guy having such a wasp problem on his neighbor's property that he would have to go at it with a stick and a flaming rag. You certainly wouldn't do that for just a couple of wasps. There would have to have been a fairly large installation of these things. So.
Yeah. Now, here in Texas, we will get the red wasps and we'll also get the yellow jackets. And they're very aggressive if you come within a certain distance, or if there's a loud noise, they can swarm and come out. They're certainly not as aggressive as killer bees, but it could have been that this guy was going after them because it was near a entrance, or maybe he was mowing the grass in his yard, and that loud noise disturbed them, and they were maybe not attacking him directly, but swarming around him anytime he was trying to mow. So it could have been the reason why he did that was because for his own preservation and trying to do things in his yard, especially with the neighbors not being there. I don't know. I'm just saying. Now, you said in a crevice. I can't imagine taking a flaming rag, because my dad would always soak it with diesel or gasoline and wrap it.
Smoke for a little bit, yeah.
And wrap it. Well, he didn't go with smoke. He wasn't trying to make the bees docile. He was trying to burn their ass. And they would drop straight off the nest to the ground with no wings. So they weren't flying anywhere. So I saw him do it many times, never burn the house down. I guess it's always a possibility. So just there's another way of looking at it. This is kind of the same thing with the with the AR-15s. It's a tool that can be used if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, and I don't think this guy exactly knew what he was doing. Something tells me there might have been a little bit of an adult beverage involved in there somewhere.
There was probably several. Now,
Yeah.
real quick, I was happy to see this. Now, I'm not trying to be pro George Zimmerman, and I always try to preface it with, I only know the information that came out in the trial. There was only 2 people that know what actually happened, and one of those 2 people are dead. So just going by the information from the trial, I think that George Zimmerman should have been acquitted, and he was, and I'm glad to see that worked out, especially in the environment that had been created prior to the trial. One of the things that happened during the trial, you may remember, was prosecutor Angela Corey had fired somebody because of being a whistleblower, and she's now under investigation, actually for firing Ben. Oh my goodness, Kruidbos, Krudbos. The Jacksonville Times Union reports Kudos received a letter from the Florida Commissioner on Ethics earlier this week saying the investigation was occurring. The TU's Larry Hannon wrote last week investigator specialist Kathleen Mann, who sent the letter, declined to comment on the investigation when contacted by the Times Union on Friday. Krudbos?
I have no idea.
Yeah, was the information technology director in Corey's office until earlier this summer. Mr. Krudbos was the victim of retaliation against the SAO when he was terminated from employment. His attorney, Wesley White, claimed in a formal complaint with the Florida Human Relations Commission, Mr. Krudbos was terminated for testifying pursuant to a subpoena before the circuit court and for Seminole County. On June 6, 2013, he continued, the nature of the testimony related to the possible knowing violation of the state of Florida, the SAO, of reciprocal discovery obligations. In a criminal prosecution, such violation falls within the inherent authority of the circuit court to sanction the conduct and actions of parties and attorneys before the court. Basically, he was reporting that there was evidence that was not being presented, or not. Maybe it was they weren't allowing evidence to come from the defense side. I can't remember. The bottom line here is that this controversial prosecutor is being investigated for ethics violations, and I applaud that this needs to happen because this is just like the people reporting the news. They need to have ethics and they need to play fair.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I remember that whole, ethics violation and civil ethics, charges were being threatened. I'm glad to see the tables being turned. I'm with you on this one, Tony.
Hey, this is Mickey G. I'm sorry I had to hang up abruptly, but when Wendy G calls, you got to take the call. And no emergency. She just called to tell me that the cat's not allowed in the house because it's sick. Poor Smitty the cat. He stuck outdoors. Anyhow, where was I? Oh, my father always taught me, and I taught my kids, that when a police officer gives you instructions, you obey it. When you don't obey the police, you are giving them permission to subdue you by any means necessary. The guy was involved in an accident, so maybe he had a head injury and wasn't thinking clearly. Autopsy results aren't in, so we don't know if it's drug or alcohol related. But anyhow, shame on the city for charging the officer so quickly, and shame on the NAACP for rallying a mob so quickly before any of the results are in. It's just tragic. It's also tragic about the Navy Yard shootings. I'm sorry to hear that, but the guy clearly had mental issues, and the government knew about it, and they did nothing about it. So it's not a gun problem. I think it's a failure to provide mental health problem, and that's about it. If I hear any more, I'll call. I'm not sure what the news sources are, what the national news sources are. I know some news people don't give the full details. At least they didn't call them something Wong and got the names like that. That was a bad joke. Poor taste, I guess. And feel free to cut and edit this wherever you feel necessary, because it's just droning on. So I'm going to let you go, and I'll chat you later. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Well, Nikki, we sure appreciate it, but I think if nothing else, people with mental health issues, we should learn not to poke them. So we didn't edit anything.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Well, speaking of bad jokes, there's something else in the news here that I had to bring up here real quick, and wasn't sure if this was a bad joke, if this was actually intentional or not. In any case, Tony, after episode 20, our last show that we recorded was out. The day after was Friday the 13th. We do the show live on Thursdays. The day after was Friday the 13th. Well, there's obviously a lot of superstitions revolving around Friday the 13th, but just a quick question, would you board a flight 666 to HEL on Friday the 13th? I don't know. I don't carry a lucky rabbit's foot around with me, but I oftentimes find myself being very cautious around mirrors, loose mirrors, and I certainly don't walk underneath ladders. But for superstitious travelers out there, that might have been a tempting fate. Now, Finnair passengers on AY666 to Helsinki, which had the three-letter designation HEL. They didn't seem to be too bothered, and last Friday's flight had no problems booking to capacity. It's actually been quite a joke among the pilots, I guess, said one veteran Finnair pilot. I'm not going to even try to mention his name. He flew the Airbus A320 from Copenhagen to Helsinki. That was flight 666 to HEL. He says, I'm not a superstitious man. It's only a coincidence for me. Now, the daily flight, AY666, and I guess this number pops up every day, from Copenhagen to Helsinki, falls on Friday the 13th twice this year. This one once was just, obviously, last week. Friday the 13th is considered bad luck in many countries, obviously, and the number 666, well, obviously has strong negative biblical associations. I'm not going to have to go into that too much for you. Now, some airlines, like Scandinavian Airlines, they take these fears very seriously. They don't even have a row 13 on their planes. Now, however, the negative connotations are a relatively new phenomenon for Northern Europeans. And Finnair and other regional carriers like Norwegian and Estonian Air, they keep their row 13s in their plane. Now, less than 100 years ago, the number 13 did not even have the sinister meaning. It's quite recent, in fact, that in the north here, according to the professor of comparative folklore at the University of Tartu in Estonia, there's only 12 hours, obviously. There's 12 months, obviously, 12 inches in a foot. And in Christianity, there's 12 apostles, and this is a divine number. Add one more, and it brings a certain element of chaos now, doesn't it? And nobody likes the number 13. But apparently passengers on Flight 666 to HEL, so Flight 666 to hell, should have had a calm flight over the Baltic at this time of year. Apparently it was a smooth ride, said the one pilot. And if there's some passengers who are anxious about this 666, our cabin crew is always happy to help them out. For me, I probably would have gone nowhere near that airport, let alone that flight.
So I'm sorry, did you say that there was no row 13 on this aircraft?
On this one, there is not.
Okay. Because I was going to comment, what would be the odds? I mean, how would you feel if you were on Flight 666, going to hell, and then seat, in the row 13? That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be, that would be something else. Yeah, I always, joke that, you're going to go straight to hell. You're riding the bus to hell, or going to hell in a handbasket. Well, you're going to hell, Flight 666. I'm taking first class.
I'm not a superstitious person per se. I do look at things as, why press your luck? So back in the dial-up days, and I've probably mentioned this before, but back in the dial-up days, I would actually not call in to the BBSs that were like Satan or devil or whatever. And they had I think it was a local exchange here in the Houston area. There's a local exchange that's 666. So like 713 back then, it would have been like 713, 666, and then whatever the rest of the number was for the modem that was for that bulletin board service. Never called it, never would, never will, because why press your luck?
I wouldn't even buy a car that has 666 in the license plate. I
would refuse it. I would be calling the state saying, you got it. You got to give me another one on religious grounds.
Yes, exactly.
So, guys, I know we were a little haphazard this tonight, and I'll take the blame for that. I was I mentioned on the pre-show that I was actually rebooting the system, my system here. Wanted to make sure we weren't having any problems with it, and it kind of got me out of the groove. So, sorry about that, but that's not how we normally run our show. We usually have a pretty tight ship, and well, it's going to happen occasionally. We're not professionals here. We're not paid. We just do this for grins and giggles.
Nope, still having a lot of fun over here, and episode 21 in the can. Look forward to episode 22. Got all kinds of good stuff for you guys coming up. Make sure you guys tune in to episode 22 next week, live around, 10 p.m. Central Time. Be sure to call our voicemail line 24/7, 206-600-6882.
Yep, want to thank Nikki G for his voicemails. Always like picking on Nikki G, but we really, really appreciate the calls. Always funny, and I really appreciate the feedback that you're giving us on the show too, because I can tell you're listening to the stories and they're meaning something to you, and we like hearing from you, and we certainly don't want to hear from people that don't agree with us.
Yeah, whether you guys want to give us some kudos or whether you want to tear us a new one, in any case, go ahead and give that voicemail line a call. We want to hear from you.
Now, Josh, I want you to hold me to this.
Yeah.
No politics next week. No gun control. No politics, none of that. We'll just have like sci-fi, science, Star Trek maybe. I don't know. We'll see what happens, what we can find, but no politics next week.
You guys listen to this, you're going to have to tune in for episode 22. I've got some good stuff in the bag that we'll definitely be pulling out and sharing with you guys.
Till next week, you guys have a great week.